Welcome back to Flick Favorites. I'm going to explain a crime, drama, thriller film from 2020, titled, New Order. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. As riots and demonstrations against the wealthy class continue, there is first declared an emergency at the hospitals in Mexico. At the same time, Marianne and Alan's high society wedding takes place in an affluent region of the nation. Many guests attend the wedding and offer their congratulations to the newlyweds. Rebecca, Marianne's mother, is getting dressed in her room at the same time but notices that the water in the taps has abruptly gone green. She asks her husband Ivan to look into it, but they are unable to uncover anything. She asks her servant Marta to be careful, as she thinks someone has brought the green paint into the wedding, and she is concerned, as people in ongoing riots are using the same. Victor, a government official, and other prominent guests attend the wedding to wish the happy couple well. After a short while, Rebecca informs Marianne that Victor could give them a new contract, but she is not interested in discussing business before her wedding. A different couple shows up for the wedding with the girl completely splattered in paint, and they claim that they were attacked by the protesters en route. Everyone is worried about how the city is changing, but the security personnel make sure that their neighborhood is remote from the insurgencies. Rebecca soon learns that Roland, one of her former workers, has arrived and is seeking a meeting. He tells her that his wife Elisa is ill and requires surgery right now when she speaks to him. He brought her to the public hospital, where the injured patients are given preference. Because he lacks a credit card and must pay in cash at the private clinic where he must take her, he is compelled to do so and requires her assistance. Even though he used to work for them, over 8 years ago, he still asks her for a loan that he would pay back as soon as possible. Victor and his family depart while they continue to converse for security concerns. Rebecca agrees to help her and offers him some money she has obtained from Ivan and Daniel, but it is insufficient to cover the cost of his wife's therapy. She declines his plea for more and departs to rejoin the group when he asks for it. Roland is dejectedly standing there when he sees Marianne, who cheerfully greets him and inquires about Elisa. He explains to her his situation and how her mother tried to help, but the amount of money is insufficient. She returns to beg Daniel for more money for Roland, but after speaking with Roland, Daniel tells Roland that he has run out of money and wants him to go. He starts talking, and Marianne hears everything and feels bad for Roland. She agrees to give him a loan from her own funds because she is a good person, but she soon learns that her mother has changed the safe's password. She discusses it with her father, who is likewise against the notion since he believes she could be wasting money. She talks about it with Alan as well, but she receives the same answer. She comes over to talk to Roland again after being let down by her family, but the guards inform her that he has already left the property. As her neighbor, Christian, son of Marta, verifies Elisa's condition, so she asks him to drive her to Roland's home. As soon as Christian and Marianne leave the home, the judge shows up and informs her that she just barely made it in time since all the nearby roadways are blocked. Rebecca asks them to begin the ceremony and then begins to seek for the bride and the groom. When Marianne is nowhere to be found, she begs Marta to look for Alan. The guard informs her that Marianne and Christian have already departed while he searches for her. She dials his number, but Marianne answers and informs her that she will be visiting Elisa's home. People are being urged to stay at home as the situation has turned heated, according to the radio news. They are soon halted by the police as well, who advise them to turn around because all of the roadways are closed. Marianne refuses to go back to the house as Christian advises because she wants to aid Elisa. They learn that the protesters have blocked the roads, but the authorities have not yet intervened. When everyone is inside the home again, a group of strangers burst from the walls and rush in, threatening everyone. Ivan summons the guards but soon discovers that they have teamed up with the demonstrators. Daniel agrees to give them his possessions since he believes they could be planning a heist, but they start killing people instead. Rebecca is separated from the others and requested to unlock her safe while everyone is made to assemble inside the home. While the other maids start taking other priceless objects from the house, she agrees to do it but is still shot. Marta contacts Christian as she is hiding in the closet and begs him not to return home. He becomes concerned and begins to interrogate her, but one of the protesters attacks her and drags Daniel's wife along with them. Marianne and Christian continue on their drive when someone sprays their automobile with green paint and starts requesting Marianne to exit the vehicle. One of the soldiers responds when Alan inquires about Marianne by threatening to kill his mother if he continues. They proceed to pillage the property and destroy everything that gets in their path as they hurl various colors over the residence. The attack results in the deaths of several people, including Rebecca and Daniel's wife. Christian, on the other hand, conceals Marianne in the rear seat of the car and starts the engine to get away from the busy streets. When they go at Roland's home, Christian tries to contact home but reports that the phone lines are down. Christian explains that he wants to take Elisa to the hospital, and Roland worries about Marianne. Marianne reassures Elisa that they will take her to the hospital and consoles her, but she becomes concerned when she notices that the protesters have destroyed everything. Christian decides to take her to his place for a bit after discovering there is no route back home. After walking over the lifeless bodies of those who were the victims, Marta returns to the house and manages to escape. The army declares a curfew in the city the next morning as the injured are brought to the hospital. Christian walks outside to check the situation when Marianne asks him to take her home, but the army stops him. When he gets them home and informs them about Marianne, they promise to take her back and invite her to go with them, forcing him to stay back. Marianne tries to phone someone at the house while she is in the car, but the line is unreachable. Soon after, the troops grab everything she is holding, including her phone. Once Marta reaches her home, Christian informs her that some soldiers escorted Marianne back to the house as the army begins to remove the dead corpses and rescue the injured. Marianne is sent to a camp in the meanwhile, where she witnesses troops abusing the other prisoners. To determine who is wealthy and who is not, they begin by asking everyone for their names and addresses. When Daniel learns of the burial for his mother and wife, he begins to sob in sorrow. The army is putting in place very stringent curfews to ensure that everything calms down, according to news reports on television about some sort of new rule. Marianne is in a terrible condition in the camp because the security personnel are abusing her and the other women. Roland chooses to travel to the hospital after hearing that the transport will be available for 2 hours. He exits the home, but the army stops him and forbids him from going any farther since the streets are still closed. Ivan is brought back from the hospital, but he begins to worry about Marianne. Victor reassures him that they are doing everything possible to locate Marianne. Since they did not uncover any clues, almost a month has passed. Pilar, Alan's mother, believes Marianne will have died by this point, but Alan does not agree. They are coerced and tormented at the camp to record messages for their families in which they make requests in order to free their loved ones. After seeing Elisa in a lot of pain, Rolando once again decides to go to the hospital, after asking Marta to look after her in his absence. When he walks outside to explain his wife's predicament, the army shoots him, and Elisa perishes as a result of her sickness. When Marianne calls Daniel, he hears her message to comply with their requests. He is asked to arrange for a $10 million ransom to release the woman. With time, the situation in the camps only worsens. There has been fighting over the ransom money since it hasn't been distributed fairly among them while the security guards keep watch on them. One of the camp guards takes Marianne to a different room and promises to assist her leave. Christian and Marta hear the news about the current situations, but are interrupted by some soldiers, who come over, and tell that they have kidnapped Marianne. If they wish to see her alive, they are asked to provide for $80,000. They are instructed to go approach Marianne's family because they are aware that they work for them, but Christian reminds them that they cannot manage this much money. It has been declared that the working force would receive fresh work permits to maintain their employment. Christian also attempts to make it to the office to receive his permission, but he is stopped and told to return home. While Daniel and Alan call the authorities and let them know about Marianne, the camp's torment continues. The officials pledge their assistance in finding Marianne but ask them not to show anybody the camp tapes. Christian and Marta are able to obtain work permits in the meanwhile, but everyone is required to work only in the approved locations and always display their IDs. They are ultimately driven to the job site by specialized cars after undergoing many security checks. After returning home, Christian warns Daniel that some individuals are demanding a ransom payment in order to rescue Marianne. When Daniel talks to his father about the problem, his father offers to help them out financially but requests that Daniel keep Victor in the dark. Christian is given money that Daniel has collected and instructed to be hidden while he does the checks. One of the inmates is informed at the camp that his ransom has been paid and he is free to leave, but shortly thereafter they hear gunshots and know they have shot him. Marta and Christian are able to smuggle money back into the home, but they are informed that this is only the first installment and that they must spend another $1 million to free her. Daniel is told the next day, but he believes they are the ones who abducted Marianne and are now extorting money. Victor collects the troops to their home after hearing about it from him. The officer instructs the troops to transport them to the camps after reprimanding them for taking advantage of the situation when the soldiers soon arrive. In the end, Marianne is released from the camp with the help of the military, and all the troops involved are killed. She is carried to Christian's home, where she is shot by the police, who then claim to be the one who kidnapped and killed the woman. The policeman calls Daniel to Christian's home, where he informs him about Marianne's passing. The army executes several individuals, including Marta, in full front of the public. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay updated on future videos. Leave a like to support the channel.